going to. And okay, Jake, you can start.
Okay. So, okay. I can see a very small picture. Can people see? Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
Okay, this is where I live and where I have lived for the past 21 years.
21 years.
It's a tiny little village. It's a dead end. You can't drive through the village. You either come into the village or you don't. Completely surrounded by mountains. Maybe 20 households.
I see.
So a very small place. Okay, next slide.
Jake, can you tell the name of the house?
Well, Shimanohara
Shimanohara.
is the tiny village,
Mm-hmm.
which is now part of Tanijugo,
Tanijugo, I see.
which is now part of Sakuraecho,
Sakuraicho, yeah, okay.
which is now part of Gotsu City.
Gotsu, I see. It's Gotsu, I see. I got it. Okay.
Okay. Okay. So I live on the Gonokawa River.
Yeah.
Which is not a well-known river. It's actually the longest river in Chugoku.
Really?
Yes, yes. And it's a beautiful, beautiful river, but very, very, very few people know about it. Okay?
Okay.
So 21 years ago, my wife and I bought an Akia. So, and this is it. This is about 20 years ago.
Wow.
So very, very small, old Minka. And basically the house was free. We bought the land because the house was 60 years old. So it has no value. Okay, next one. So since we moved in, I've basically been renovating, but you can see it's a very, very, there's no foundations.
Yeah.
The house was built on rocks rather than foundations, and the floor again very, very simple. It's a very, very simple house, which is how Japanese houses used to be. So first thing I did was put in floors, new floors, and put up some walls. The smartest thing I did was put in a wood stove.
Wow, I see. This is the one.
I insulated under the floor and in the ceiling and put in a wood stove. And basically for 20 years, my heating bill has been free. I haven't had to pay. I have to get wood, but that's not been a problem usually.
I see.
So I did most of it myself. I'm not very skilled, so very slowly working on it myself. Okay.
Is that you? Is that you in the picture?
Yes, that's me. Yeah.
Like an actor.
Okay, now about 16 years ago, a television company in Tokyo did a documentary on Akiya. And they visited us. And at the time, I mean, now Akiya are so popular. There are thousands of YouTubers who are doing up Akiya houses. But 16 years ago, it was not a hot topic.
Yeah.
So they came and filmed us. Okay.
Okay. And this is your wife, right?
Yes, that's Yoko. That's my wife, Yoko. Okay, so basically, the old Japanese houses used persimmon juice as insect repellent.
I see.
So you painted wooden beams with persimmon juice, and that kept the insects out of the wood. So all the beams were dark. So I basically put up some plasterboard walls because I needed space for Yoko. Thank you. I needed space for pictures. I needed walls
I see.
for bookshelves and pictures. But that's basically my house.
Wow.
Okay, next one. One of the great things and one of the reasons why we moved to the country was free stuff. And the countryside anywhere in the world, food is growing for free all around you. So bamboo shoots are every year, you know, we dig up the bamboo shoots. They're very expensive to buy, but
Yeah.
they're free. Next one. Free meat. Inoshishi. Regularly, my neighbor kills the inoshishi, which are a huge problem in most parts of the countryside. But it's delicious meat. It's better than pork. Just up the river from us is an inoshishi meat company. So they actually buy up the killed animals and sell it on.
I see.
Okay. And then this is my neighbor of years ago, and she's threshing millet, which is awa and kibi, which again was a major food in history in Japan, but nowadays people don't eat it at all. Rice was not the big thing that it is now. In the old days, people ate quite differently, and so modern Japan is actually quite different in many ways from historical Japan. But yes, so yes, my garden. Okay, that's basically the introduction about where I am and where I've been. That's from Mount Sanbei.
Wow, Sanbei.
Yeah. That's Sanbei at just before dawn. Okay. The area I live is famous for Kagura. But more than Kagura, we have a type of Kagura called Omoto Kagura here, which is a form of shamanic Kagura. Shamanic means kamigakari. And
is it shaman?
Shamanic, shaman.
Shaman, I see.
Yeah. This kind of Kagura, shamanic Kagura, was common throughout Japan until the Meiji period, when it became illegal.
Wow.
And where I live is so off the beaten track that it's the only place in Japan that still does it.
Wow.
Even though it was illegal, we were so far from centers of political power that people just carried on doing it. And so it's one of my favorite autumn activities is going to Kagura. But like I say, I'm always interested in what is unique about a place. And Iwami, I hesitate to say Shimane. I say I'm from Iwami. because Iwami identity is
Yeah.
stronger than Shimane identity. Shimane is a modern thing,
Yeah.
you know.
I see.
And one more slide, I think.
Yeah.
I was fascinated by Kagura, but I'm too old to become a dancer.
Mm-hmm.
But I learned how to make masks. So for quite a while, I made a lot of masks,
Mm-hmm.
Iwami Kagura masks,
Mm-hmm.
and that was one of my side incomes, one of my ways of making money.
Wow. So you
Okay,
check you're still making masks? Or
I
like,
still have I have about 20 in preparation, but I haven't worked on it for a long time.
wow.
Uh, but it's all there waiting, sitting
I see.
for me to
Like
finish.
in Iwami, they use papers to make,
Yes, again,
right?
it's a local paper, Iwami Sekishu,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
which again is unique to this area.
I see.
Yes, so that yes, they're made of paper.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much for the introduction. It was so
Okay.
so great, and the the things you are doing and the way of living is really fascinating. So and it's really, you know, nowadays we are talking about, you know, this kind of revitalization things about Inaka and Akia, and also, but maybe for like 20 years ago, like no one is, you know, talking about this kind of topic. So I really interested, like yeah, I want to ask about those things too. But before you moved to Japan, like how was your life also in back home? Like in your profile, you mentioned like you moved to so many countries. So like can you tell a bit more about it?
Yeah, well, when you say back home, I don't really have a back home.
Yeah, yeah,
So I left my home country, England, when I was 18.
yeah.
And the longest place I've lived has been Japan.
Wow, I see.
But basically, so I don't have a home.
Yeah,
I mean,
same as me.
home is where I am. I mean, people ask me, you know, the standard greeting when you meet people in Japan is, "Oh, where are you from?" And I tell them I'm from Iwami, and they go, "No, no, 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 no. Where are you really from?" But this is my home. So yeah, I left England, lived in Germany, West Berlin for a couple of years,
Mm-hmm.
and then I went to the States. I lived in Alabama,
Mm-hmm.
Georgia, and then I moved to Arizona and fell in love with the desert.
I see.
I don't know why, but the desert just fascinated me.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually, I went back to England to go to university,
Mm-hmm.
and after university, I worked as a sign writer,
Mm-hmm.
and then I taught myself computing back in 1981. I
Mm-hmm.
bought a little computer and
Mm-hmm.
taught computing. So back in the late 80s, I became a professor at art schools, teaching computing to artists.
I see.
After a while of that, the pull to the desert
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't let me go. You know, I was making good money living in Cornwall, a very place similar to Shimane in England.
I see.
But I had to go back to the desert and find out why. So I moved back to Arizona,
Mm-hmm.
and 1992, I think.
Mm.
And eventually, eight years later, I met Yoko.
Mm-hmm.
Yoko was visiting over there,
Mm.
and we just met for a couple of days.
Mm.
We conversed by email, not email, snail mail, because I was living in a place that didn't have electricity or telephones or anything.
Wow. Mm-hmm.
So we wrote to each other, and she came back a few months later, and we got married.
Wow.
And then she immediately came back home to Kyoto, and
Mm.
it took me a few months to raise the money to move back. But basically, I moved to Japan
Mm-hmm.
to be with my wife.
I see.
It was, and my wife was from Kyoto, so I lived in Kyoto. We lived together for 2 years in Kyoto,
Mm-hmm.
but cities were driving me crazy. We were living in a tiny apartment,
Mm-hmm.
and life was quite relatively expensive.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to move to the countryside so I could get a
Mm-hmm.
garden
Mm-hmm.
and have more space, and live maybe a cheaper life.
I see.
And eventually we found an NPO who was doing U-turn, I-turn.
Wow.
It was bringing people into Sakuraicho,
Mm-hmm.
and we heard about them, and we came down to visit, and they were
Mm-hmm.
fantastic, and they showed us a couple of places,
Mm-hmm.
and they showed us the house that I now have, and said, oh, they'd probably sell it. And so literally 2 months later we moved to Shimane.
I see.
So that's what brought me to rural Japan, was trying
Wow.
trying to live a cheaper, more natural life.
I
Okay.
see. Yeah, that's a
So I
nice
I
story. So
I've done lots and lots and lots of different work.
I see.
You know, one thing that's consistent. I'm an artist, basically. I
Mm-hmm.
studied painting,
Yeah.
and making art has been my main function.
Mm-hmm.
But you need money to do that, so I've always had to do jobs.
I see.
And I've done so many different kind of jobs. It's kind of like once I've learned how to do something,
Mm-hmm.
I get bored.
Mm-hmm.
So I learn how to do something else and get a job and get paid to do that. So that's
I see.
basically what I've done.
Okay.
That's
Thank
been
you.
the pattern of my life.
Mm. Oh, so like if you didn't meet Yoko, so Japan is not your bucket list. I mean,
No,
you're
no, Japan was never a place that I was interested in.
I see.
You know, um, I don't. Uh, when I was 19, 20, I kind of studied Zen a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
but that was primarily Chinese. The stories are all Chinese. It wasn't.
I see.
It wasn't really about Japan.
Mm-hmm.
But no, I never had a desire. I'm not into samurai or geisha or ninja or
Wow.
sushi or anime or video
I
games.
see.
So no, I moved to Japan because that's where my wife lived.
I see. That's romantic. Okay. Okay, so because like we have another 30 minutes or so, so I'm gonna move forward.
Okay.
So your blog, More Glimpses of Unfamiliar Japan, focuses on rural and lesser known areas. So I just want to know like what inspired you to explore these places, particularly by foot. I mean, you don't drive in Japan, so
I used to.
oh really? Sorry,
Yeah, yeah,
sorry.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, so
Okay. Well, the title of my blog is obviously a rip-off of Lafcadio Han.
Yes.
You know, he wrote Glimpses of Unfamiliar Japan, which was primarily about Izumo.
Yes.
Whereas where I was living in Iwami was quite different from Izumo.
Yeah.
So what I wanted to do was kind of do the same thing for Iwami that Lafcadio Han did for Izumo. So that's why I called
see.
it that.
Mhm.
Why was because I had to understand
Mhm.
where I live.
I see.
I had to know where I live. And that includes obviously things like geography
Mhm.
and the climate
Uh-huh.
created the place I am,
Mm.
but also the history, the
Mm.
human history,
Mhm.
which is political and religious,
Mm.
but also based on the geography and the climate.
Mhm.
So you put the word there that's the most important one, explore.
Yeah.
I had to explore where I lived
Mm.
so that I could find my place in it, so I could fit within it.
Yeah. Mm.
So and so I started walking
Mhm.
around my area. I mean, if you move somewhere new,
Mm.
you go out and you walk around the area and find out what's what, where's what,
Yeah.
you know. So that's why I started walking
Mhm.
around immediately around my village
Mhm.
and gradually going further and further afield, you
Mhm.
know. And what I would do
Mm.
is I don't have a smartphone. So, you know, there's no Google Maps or anything like that. I would print out the contour maps, the,
Wow.
the geology map, because they showed walking trails and shrines and temples, whereas Google Maps didn't show any of that, hardly any of that stuff.
I see.
So I would start walking, and that's when I discovered that at shrines,
Mhm.
there are stories.
Mhm.
You know, there are local stories
Mm.
and myth, Shinwa.
Yeah.
And all of these things contributed to this place. So
Mm.
it was a way of understanding and learning about
Mhm.
where I was.
Mm.
So that then became the pattern that after I'd walked for a year or two in the immediate vicinity, I would
Mhm.
start to go further and further afield. I
Mhm.
would look on a map, find all the shrines,
Mhm.
and work out a route where I
Mm.
could walk and visit
Mhm.
all those shrines.
I see.
And that's how it started.
Wow.
After I'd pretty much covered Shimane,
Mhm.
I wanted, you know, I just naturally started to go further and further afield.
Mhm.
And by now, I was making a little bit of money from writing.
Mm.
I wrote, again, 20 years ago, there were very few websites
Yeah.
on tourism in Japan. But some friends of mine ran one of the big websites.
Mhm.
So wherever I traveled, I'd take photos
Mm.
and do the research, and then I would write short tour guide articles.
I see.
So that kind of funded, you know, I didn't make money, but it paid for the trips.
I see. Okay.
So that's why I was inspired to explore, because
Mhm.
again the word is explore. You cannot explore something that you know.
Mm.
So implicit in the word explore is going somewhere where you don't know. You don't know what you're going to see.
Yeah.
You know, which
Mm.
appeals to some people, but it doesn't appeal to many others.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, nowadays most people want to go to Instagram spots
Yeah.
because they've already seen it.
Yeah.
Whereas there are people who don't want to go there.
Yeah.
And why on foot? I
Mm.
mean, just because that's the most human way. You move so slowly
Yeah.
that you see things
Yeah.
and you meet people.
Yeah.
You know,
Mm.
even on a bicycle, sometimes you're going too fast to
Yeah.
notice things.
Yeah.
It's also worth mentioning that all my life I've been a hitchhiker.
I see.
So I've always traveled slowly.
Yeah, that's so nice.
You know.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe this is something, like what do you call the difference between traveler and a tourist. So
Uh-huh.
yeah. So you and I think most of the time Koki and Yuri-san also, we like, travel, so not the
Yeah.
not
Well, I
just
mean,
about the place that we want to visit.
I also started doing some guiding.
Okay.
Uh, Again, it was mostly a company from Southern California,
Mm-hmm.
and most of the participants were Japanese Americans.
I see. Mm-hmm.
But and they would send me private customers as well.
I see.
And mostly it was people who didn't want to go to Kyoto and they didn't want
Mm-hmm.
to go to Itsukushima.
Yeah, I
They
see.
wanted to see,
Mm.
it's a cliche, but the real Japan.
Yeah.
And again, even in cities,
Mm.
walking is how you notice things.
Yeah.
So to me that just seems perfectly natural to.
Okay. Thank you. I think like we should move to the next one. So I
Okay.
think you already talked about this one. You have spent a lot of time visiting shrines and following pilgrimage routes. So what draws you to the different shrines, and do you have
Okay.
any memorable stories on this journey? I mean,
Okay.
especially like I think like as I heard from you, like it's really hard to find those very rare shrines. As you said, you found it from the not from the Google, so it's maybe really hard to find the information about these places. And I mean, not the the basic things. I mean, the stories and the
Yeah.
routes
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
all the
Yeah.
things.
Well, also, I mean, over the last 20 years, I have
Yeah.
read hundreds and hundreds of books.
Wow.
I mean, because if you ask, I mean, I would ask my wife or other
Mm-hmm.
Japanese people questions because always I
Mm-hmm.
want to why,
I
and
see.
people don't know.
Yeah.
So yeah, I had to again a lot of very expensive academic books,
Wow.
but basically all my walking and talking and going to local history museums
Yeah.
was complemented by massive amounts of reading.
I see. Okay.
So it's yeah.
So
But
like in that case,
why
like
pilgrimage routes?
yeah.
After I'd pretty much covered Shimane, I
Mm-hmm.
started to look on the map for areas where there were clusters of many shrines close together.
I see.
And I noticed one place in Tokushima
Uh-huh.
And then I found out that that was on the Ohenro,
Mm-hmm.
the pilgrimage route.
Yeah.
So that's when I started walking the pilgrimages.
Wow.
And there's kind of two reasons.
Mm-hmm.
One reason is a negative.
Hmm.
I get stopped a lot by police. You know, walking around the countryside of Japan. I have the terrorist beard. So I got tired of being stopped by the police. So I figured with the white jacket and the hat and the walking staff on an established pilgrimage route, you don't get stopped by the cops. So that was one reason.
Okay.
But the main reason goes back to what the pilgrimages were in historical times.
Mm-hmm.
And that is nowadays
Mm.
people go from one temple to the next temple, collect the stamp
Yeah.
as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
Whereas in the old days, you walked and all the places along the way were just as important as
Mm.
the temples.
Mm.
So the pilgrimage became like a skeleton, a plan
Yeah.
to structure my walks.
I see.
Instead of just walking off in any direction, the
Mm.
pilgrimage would give a route for
Mm.
me to be able to walk.
I see.
Again, stopping in at every shrine along the way
Mm-hmm.
and every little local history museum and what have
Mm.
you. So that's why I started following the pilgrimage routes.
I see.
You know, I mean, that's why I walked through Okayama
Mm-hmm.
on the Chugoku Sanjusan Canyon.
Mm.
So I came down from Takahashi through Soja to Kurashiki.
Mm-hmm.
So again, Unan I walked through many times, but also on the Izumo Sanjusan Canyon,
Wow.
which was a really nice route. So basically, the pilgrimages just became like the excuse to go walking and discover what's along the way.
Okay.
So now I've probably walked at least 25,000 kilometers,
Wow.
all of Western Japan,
I see.
Shikoku, Kyushu, Chugoku, Saigoku,
Mm.
Kinki. But the rest of Japan, I have no idea about.
Yeah.
But I've been everywhere in Chugoku, Shikoku, Kyushu, literally everywhere.
Yeah. Okay.
So stories, wow. I mean, as both Koki and Yuri mentioned,
Mm-hmm.
the countryside people are friendlier than in the cities.
Yeah.
Again, I think that's a global. I think that's everywhere in the world. It's not just it's not Japanese culture. That's just
Yeah.
human nature.
Yeah.
The countryside people are usually friendlier
Mm-hmm.
and more helpful.
Mm.
So stories, wow, hundreds of stories.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I also a lot when I travel,
Mm-hmm.
I do nojuku.
Music.
I
Mm.
I sleep out.
I see.
It's not camping.
Mm-hmm.
I don't set up a tent and make a fire or anything. I just,
Yeah.
again, because many of the places I go,
Mm-hmm.
there are no accommodation
Yeah.
facilities. And if you're walking,
Mm-hmm.
you don't know where you're going to be.
Yeah.
Again, that's that defeats the purpose.
Yeah.
If everything is planned and booked, that's not really exploring.
Yeah.
So one of my favorite things to do in Japan is to sleep out on a mountaintop so that you can watch the sunset
Wow.
and then watch the sunrise.
Mm-hmm.
I've done that on several of the islands in the Seto Nakai in the
Mm-hmm.
inland sea, and
Okay.
it's unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
Again, if you're sleeping out,
Mm-hmm.
you're up at 4:30 in the morning,
Yeah.
and that's the most beautiful time of day.
Yeah.
So some of my best photographs have been taken
Okay.
just around sunrise.
Wow.
The countryside still has some really cheap accommodation options, though. I found some fantastic, amazing places.
Mm-hmm.
Down in southern Miyazaki,
Mm-hmm.
a guy opened a new, he built a new house and opened a small minshuku.
Mm-hmm.
And as part of his campaign, he said, if you're cycling, only 2,500 yen a night.
I see.
If you're walking,
Mm-hmm.
1,000 yen a night. And
Wow.
no one walks.
Mm.
So when I contacted him and said, I'm actually walking, yeah, I got it for 1,000 yen.
Wow.
And that evening,
Mm-hmm.
he gave me several beers.
Mm-hmm.
And next morning, he gave me some breakfast.
Mm.
And that was 1,000 yen. So biker houses.
Mm-hmm.
I'd never heard about them until I discovered one
Mm.
in the middle of nowhere in Oita, in the mountains of Oita.
Mm.
And again, fantastically friendly people
Mm.
who gave me food and drink. And it was like 3,000 yen
Yeah.
a night.
Mm.
Even just recently, earlier this year, I'm walking the Sanin Kaigan
Mm.
coastline,
Mm.
and I found an old minshuku
Mm.
that's officially a youth hostel,
Mm-hmm. Mm.
but it's just your old traditional minshuku.
Mm.
Again, 3,500 yen a night.
Mm.
So the people at these places are usually very, very friendly and very, very helpful,
Yeah.
And so that is as much fun as Nojuku.
Okay.
Stories. Often in Japan,
Mm-hmm.
you're walking along rivers. That's the main transportation routes is following rivers.
Mm-hmm.
Every now and then you've got to go over a mountain all the time, but basically you're walking along rivers. And many times I've been walking along the road and road closed.
Mm-hmm.
Barriers across the road saying you can't go through. Now, every single time I figured, oh, that's for cars. I can walk through.
That's it.
So I've done that many times, walked through. And usually there's a couple of rocks fallen by the side of the road,
Yeah.
but absolutely no problem at all walking by.
Okay.
But two times, the first time I walked the Kandagawa, the Kanda River. I was walking down the Kanda River from the top of the mountains towards Izumo Taisha, and road closed sign. So I thought, keep going. I came to where they were building the dam,
Mm.
and there was absolutely no way to walk through.
Mm.
But one of the workers came over in a pickup truck and drove me up and around.
Yes, yes.
Same thing happened again in your area.
Mm.
I was walking down the He River,
Mm-hmm.
and again, ahead on the map, there was some shrines marked in a village.
Mm.
When I got there,
Mm.
the village was gone. There were just foundations left.
Wow.
This was where they were going to build the dam,
Uh-huh. I see.
and they'd cut the road.
Mm-hmm.
And there were a couple of workers there just digging, cut the road.
Mm-hmm.
But some local guy, a young local man,
Mm.
so chatting,
Mm.
and he said, "Oh, I'll show you how to." I didn't know where to go
Mm-hmm.
because my map showed go down the river,
Mm-hmm.
but he took me over the hills
Mm-hmm.
and back down on the other side. Real friendly, just a local guy. All he did was complain about Japan Inc. and constructing the dam and how all the workers were coming from Yamaguchi
Mm-hmm.
and Hiroshima,
Mm.
and none of the work was for local people.
I see. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, stories. What?
Okay. I
The
think,
most
yeah.
dramatic. The most dramatic was sleeping out in a typhoon. That was maybe 12 years ago
Uh-huh.
in Shikoku, and Typhoon Talas, it was called.
Uh-huh.
I was on the Shikoku Ohenro,
Uh-huh.
and literally afterwards, I checked the weather reports and did some calculations,
Mm-hmm.
and in 24 hours,
Mm.
I had more rain than my hometown in England gets in a year.
Wow. Mm.
But yeah, I love the country. I love sleeping out. Most of my stories are people being kind.
I see.
You know, walking down the Kunisaki Hanto.
Mm.
It was getting dark, and I asked a gentleman walking his dog
Mm.
how far it was to the ferry terminal.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, "Oh, it's about 5 kilometers. I'll give you a ride."
Mm-hmm.
So we went into his house.
Mm.
He was a sculptor making Buddhist statues. Him and his son
I see.
made sacred statues. That was their business. And so I got to chat with them in their workshop. The son was working on a canon, you know, things like that.
Okay.
Again,
I think like for 20 years, maybe it's so many stories, so we cannot have
yeah.
everything to get
It's
today,
the
but
unexpected.
yeah.
The unexpected.
Okay, let's move to the other one. Uh, Walking through rural areas allows for a deep connection with the land and its people. Yeah, so
Well,
maybe we talk about this thing.
yeah,
So, yeah,
traveling on foot is the cheapest.
yeah,
You know,
exactly.
it's the cheapest and most natural.
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
Okay, let's move to the last one. Yeah. So, given your experiences, what are your thoughts the direction tourism is heading in Japan today? How can rural places offer a more meaningful experience for travelers? So, this is something, like, kind of a very, very, the present day tourism is getting, more and more foreign people to Japan, and I
yeah,
think
yeah,
it's
yeah, yeah.
getting more touristic, right? Rather than the travel you did all the way in Japan. So I think like the values of Japan is getting deteriorating these days because of they're having so many people and over tourism is all over like everywhere. So
It isn't. It isn't. Over tourism is Tokyo, Kyoto,
yeah,
and maybe Hiroshima.
yes. Yeah,
I mean, everywhere else is not.
yeah, yeah,
You know,
yeah.
I was just in Suwano on a monitor tour.
Where?
Suwano.
Ah, Toronto, I see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Watching Sagimai.
Mm-hmm.
And in Masada and Suwano,
Mm-hmm.
the hotels were 70% empty.
I see. Yeah.
You know,
Mm.
I don't buy this over tourism thing.
I
Again,
see.
they're talking about over tourism on Mount Fuji.
Mm-hmm.
Before COVID,
Mm-hmm.
there were higher numbers of people hiking Mount Fuji.
I see.
You
Mm.
know, so now they're saying, oh, it's so overcrowded. It's
Yeah,
less crowded than it used to be.
I see.
So
Mm-hmm.
I don't buy this over tourism thing.
Yeah,
Sorry.
the my point is like the people are going to those golden rooms, but they are not coming to the rural places because of different problems are there, like the transportation thing and infrastructure
Well,
problems
yeah,
and things like that also affected. But
there's there's some people who would never come to Inaka.
yeah,
Some people just want to collect the Instagram spots.
yes,
Those are consumers.
yeah, mm,
They don't want an experience.
yeah,
They don't want to learn anything.
mm,
They just want to buy and consume.
yes,
So it's pointless trying to attract those people.
I see. Mm,
You know, the the
yeah,
Japanese government's Japan Heritage Program
yeah,
is actually doing some good, I think,
mm-hmm,
because when I started writing about and doing tour guiding, I mean, the there was nothing on Inaka. You know,
yeah,
again, it
yeah,
was
mm,
Hiroshima, Tokyo,
mm-hmm,
Miyajima,
yes,
basically.
yeah,
So that the Japan Heritage Program is
mm-hmm,
is is helping.
mm,
Um, Global geoparks
mm-hmm,
like the Oki Islands
yeah,
and the Sanin Kaigan,
mm,
they're great because they have massive amounts of information in English.
yeah, mm-hmm,
All the signage at those sites is in English,
English, yeah,
you know. So those are good places.
mm-hmm,
Um, like I say, there's national Japanese culture,
mm-hmm,
and then there's local culture.
mm-hmm,
And local culture is disappearing.
yeah,
It has been disappearing ever since Meiji,
yeah,
you know, by design,
I see.
you know. But um, whatever is unique
Mm-hmm,
about your area,
mm-hmm,
that's what you promote.
yeah,
That's what you let people know.
yes,
Like I say, I've had lots of people come visit. My
mm-hmm,
nephew came to visit.
mm-hmm,
He wanted to see the bamboo forest at Arashiyama.
mm,
Okay. I
mm.
said, why? You got bamboo forests everywhere. No. I want to see the bamboo forest in
That's
Arashiyama. You know,
yeah,
other people came.
yeah,
We didn't go anywhere. We just walked around
mm-hmm,
my local area. We
mm,
walked the Ginzan Kaido
mm-hmm,
from Yonotsu over to Omori,
I see.
you know, and we just walked the local areas and they loved it.
Mm,
That's what they wanted.
yeah,
So it's really
yeah, it's
targeting the people
people who
that
really
want
want
to
to
do
stay.
that. I always recommend Seishinju Hachikipu.
I see. Mm-hmm.
You know, it's a great way to experience Japan.
Yeah.
You know, The Shinkansen is very convenient, but you
Mhm.
don't see anything. You don't experience anything.
I see.
Spending a day taking the local train from Shimane to Miyazaki,
Mhm.
you get to see a lot of stuff and meet a lot of people.
Yeah.
So more meaningful experience for travelers. Yeah. I personally don't think some tour guides say you've got to have everything in English, you've got to have everything in English, you've got to have everything in English. I'm not so convinced.
I see.
I mean, it helps, but the kind of people who want to come to out of the way places
Yeah.
are the kind of people who will struggle with communication. You know,
Yes.
they you know they've obviously been to many countries
Yeah.
and don't know the languages, so you learn how to communicate.
Yeah.
So a lot of the problem, I think, is
Mm.
the rural places
Mm.
fear
Yeah.
foreign tourists because they say, "Oh, we can't speak English."
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, it's not such a problem.
Yeah.
You know, and that's again, that's for local people to
Mm.
get their head around.
Yeah. Okay.
Um, the other thing that I've all gotten into in the last 10 years is
Mm.
the preservation districts. They're
Uh-huh.
called groups of traditional buildings.
Mm-hmm.
There's about 120 of them around Japan.
I
Uh,
see.
Yunotsu is one, Omori is one, Kurayoshi is another one.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of them are in the famous tourist spots,
Mm. Mm.
but a lot of them are in really out of the way places, like the farming village at the base of Mount Daisen.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
You know, I really recommend those places for people.
I see.
Again, when me and Yoko visited
Mm-hmm.
the Daisen, it's just a farming village.
Yeah.
There's literally nothing there.
Mm.
There's no tourist office. At either end of the village, there's a box which has pamphlets in,
Mm.
and that was it.
Mm-hmm.
But as we walked around,
Mm.
an old couple
Mm.
came up to us and started to chat, and they invited us into their home.
Wow.
A huge, massive farmhouse that they just renovated
I see.
traditionally.
Mm.
So we spent 20 minutes sitting in the Engawa, being
Mm-hmm.
told about the history of the place. Again, they're not tour guides. This wasn't their business. They were
Mm.
just people in the countryside. If they offer that friendship, if you make the initial contact,
Yeah.
you know, that's what it's about for me.
Yeah. Okay. I think like we're running out of time, and if you guys have like some questions or any comments to Jake, you can go ahead with the questions. Like I think it's really amazing story like you shared with us today, and I think like for me like I'm doing kind of the business tourism business, so it's not always we can do the the way you say, but
Uh-huh.
still I think there are so many things we can you know adapt from your from story, because it's really hard to put those things into the business and doing business while doing the traveling also, but the stories are really inspiring a lot, because like all the Koki and Yuri also in the same field, so it was really fascinating to hear your story. But in my perspective, like I will try like my best how I can imply all the things you say today to my guests, and how to do something in a good way. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, you guys, do you have any questions or anything to say? Like you can go ahead in Japanese if you feel like like
Okay.
Yeah.
So first of all, thank you, Jake, for sharing the great stories.
Mm-hmm.
I was really inspired, and I definitely agree with your like attitude towards traveling.
Yeah.
Because me myself, I quit my company like 3 years ago to travel the world, and then I went a lot of places. But I did also like traveled just by my foot. Like when I was traveling in Cyprus,
Mm-hmm.
like small island, I
Mm-hmm.
traveled all around Cyprus by my foot, and that made me really like appreciate a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, I wake up like 4 or 5 a.m. in the morning, and
Yeah.
that's
Mm.
the most beautiful time I think as well.
Yeah.
So I definitely agree with your idea.
Mm.
And my question is like about living in Japan, like in the rural side. Like you said, it's only like 20 households
The household.
living in
Yeah.
the same place.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm also interested in moving those like small village or something, maybe in the near future. But do you find it kind of difficult, like for the, I mean, like
Yes,
strangers, like who have any like
Immigrant.
who don't have any relatives or something like that?
Yeah.
that's not a problem. The problem is that um, as we're getting older,
Mm-hmm.
you know, access. There's we have 5 buses a day.
Mm,
I see.
I see.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Mm.
so basically, if you live in a rural area, you have to drive.
Yeah. Mm.
And when you get too old for driving,
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
you know, so what the solution is, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I know in England and to a certain extent in America,
Mm.
city people want to move to the country,
Mhm.
Yeah.
but not in Japan. Very, 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 very few people want to move to the
Mm-hmm.
country,
Mm.
you know. So yeah, I don't know what's going to happen in the future.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We had a beautiful train line,
Yeah.
the Sanko line,
Mm. That's
and
also.
it was one of the most beautiful train rides in all of Japan,
Yeah.
and they closed it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
for you guys who are trying to promote tourism in your rural areas,
Mm.
um, self-guided walks,
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
you know, so where you can produce a map
Mm-hmm.
with clear directions and show all the local places of interest,
Mm-hmm.
so people can just go off on their own and
Yeah.
explore.
Mm.
I mean, I know some of the big walking tour companies and tour group companies do the self-guided tours.
I see.
But for the local areas, you can produce a map. I mean,
Yeah.
uh, Unan has some really fascinating stuff,
Mm. Yeah.
and just a small map in English,
Mm.
easy to follow,
Mm.
self-guided walking.
Yeah. That would be a good idea. Yeah.
Like I say, in your area,
Mm.
Samira,
Yeah.
I mean, the Yokota local history museums are actually really good.
Yeah. Yeah.
In many places, many
Mm.
parts of Japan,
Mm.
local history museums are real gems.
Yeah.
You know, so
I see.
push them.
Okay. Okay. Yuri-san, do you have anything to share with us? Oh.
Well, firstly, thank you for the stories. It reminds me of my experience in Australia,
Uh-huh.
basically. It was so, the memory was beautiful for me. So
Yeah.
it's really nice. And yeah, and 今ちょっと息子が言っててごめんなさいね。
はい。
ちょっと頭があれだったんですけど、日本語で、
はい。
そう今おっしゃっていただいた通り、
うん。
歩いて
うん。
回れるとか、す
うん。
ごく
うん。
大切だなというふうに
はい。
思ってます。で、
うん。
なんかやっぱり来てもらった方に、
うん。うん。うん。
もう一回来てもらえるっていうことが結構今キーポイントなんじゃないかなと
うん。
思っ
うん。
て
うん。
で、余計なんかこう、ちょっと訪れた時に、そこでなんか、コインシデンスでこう、なんか、ハプンしたことがや
そう
っぱり
ですね。
すごく
うん。
心に残ると思うので、
うん。う
そう
ん。
いったものを作れるのはやっぱりち
うん。
ょっと歩いてみた時のこ
そうですよ
となのかな
ね。う
というふう
ん。
に思いました。なん
そう。
かで今私は観光協会のインスタグラムもして
はい。
ますので、本当に
うん。
ジェクさんがおっしゃってくださった
うん。
その、
うん。
歩いて回るっていう
そうで
ような
すよね。
はしていけたらいいなというふうに思いま
うん。
した。すごく参考にもなりましたし、ありがとうございま
ありが
した。
とうござい
Thank you very much.
はい。
ます。Okay. Jake,
あ
like,
とうちの息子が神楽大好きで、出雲
wow.
神楽も石見神楽も大好きで、
Oh, really?
he actually saw your mask and
Uh-huh.
then
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, and he was so excited and said,
yeah.
"What are we wearing?" So
Yeah, I'm amazed because October into November,
Mhm.
uh, everywhere in Iwami,
Mm.
people have the all-night
Mhm.
Kagura Matsuri,
Yeah,
and I I believe that was Japanese culture,
yeah,
but I'm amazed to find out that almost nowhere else in Japan
yeah,
do they have all-night Matsuris.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
You know,
Mm.
so again, most Japanese people don't even know
Mm.
about it.
Mm.
But an all-night Matsuri
Yeah,
is one of the most fantastic experiences you can have.
I see.
So if you're ever in Iwami, find one.
Mm.
Because again, traveling
You should.
around Japan, again, one of the greatest pleasures is accidentally stumbling upon a Matsuri.
I see.
You know, not
Mm.
knowing, you go into
What's
a
happening
village and
there?
there's a Matsuri going on,
Yeah,
and the welcome you get
yeah,
from people is
yeah,
unbelievable. You
yeah,
literally are,
yeah,
treated like a king.
yeah, yeah.
Oh, thank you so much for coming to our
To
poor
the
humble little
house.
village.
Yeah.
And again, you can't plan it.
Yeah.
yeah,
But
Well,
again, not
what do
not
you call the serendipity, right?
yeah. Not the city matsuris, but the actual village,
Yeah,
the local village
yeah.
matsuris.
Yeah. That's that's
Do you
really
have
unique.
those up in Okaizuma?
Sorry?
Do you have those village shrine matsuris in Okaizuma?
We have, but not the all night matsuris anymore. I think in this area, but still we have the Kagura performances. But
Okay.
it's not the as real as what you saying. I think,
Mm.
and even they have it for now, like they're having it maybe for 10 years or 12 years once. So because it costs so many, so much money to
Yeah.
run a one matsuri. So it's like a hakuman for I heard from one guy like to have a
Yeah.
one matsuri. It's it took like hakuman to have a one matsuri, one night matsuri. So it's
Yeah.
maybe bit hard for the people right now here. Okay, so as Yuri-san said, like I think we may be overthinking of the people who are coming here, and we have to provide them all the facilities and everything. As Jake said, the Japanese and everything should be in Japanese. There's nothing like that. So as what inspired me most is the maybe like people are coming with the feeling or the mindset that they are not having all the things here as they find it in Tokyo or in town. So maybe like providing them, map for going their own, like as Jake said. So that may be something, we can do without, putting so much money and doing something very, very difficult or nothing like that. So that was a really good viewpoint, like Jake said. I think like maybe we can, work in those small things first and then do something, big things. But things like people start with, oh, we don't have transportation, we don't have like, yeah, like the other things, blah blah blah. But the things maybe we can start. There are so many things we can start at. I mean, at this moment also. That's
Yeah, I mean, the problem is no matter who you are, where you live is natural to you, so you don't notice it.
yeah. That's
You
one
know,
thing also. Yeah,
so again in Japan, people
yeah,
say, "Oh no, we have nothing to see here."
yeah.
But then
That's
there's some fantastic,
yeah,
beautiful little shrines with
yeah,
unique komainu,
yeah.
but the
But
local people
people,
don't notice it.
yeah, people didn't know.
So that's the problem
Yeah,
is
exactly.
you need feedback.
But in that sense, like Yuri and Poki and me also, like we are from
Yeah.
different places, so we can see it more than the people who used to it.
Yes.
Maybe like
Yeah.
that's a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, guys. Like I think we talk a lot, and we already like 20 minutes like over the session. So
Oh,
I
Kumano
think
Sai.
it's already lunchtime. So we'll say bye to Jake, or do you guys have anything else to ask, or like can we end the session here? Oh, Jake, do you have any last message or something to say for us to the audience?
No. I think forget national culture.
Mm-hmm.
Dig into the local history.
Yeah,
Again, the very old people
yeah,
will know things that
I see.
the middle-aged city officers won't know.
I see.
Okay, good luck.
Yeah, thank you very much, and
Thank
thank
you.
you guys to participation. Okay,
Okay,
okay, see you.
bye.
Bye
Thank
bye.
you very much. Bye bye.
Thank you.
See you guys.
よいしょあれ
Yuri-san, bye bye.
さよなら。ありがとう。
Okay.